Hey guys, Captain JJB84 here with a very late night review. It's like 2 o'clock over here and I can't sleep. So, I'm doing the review. My suffering is your pleasure, I guess. Ugh. Anyways, X-Men First Class, what I like to call sex. Hugh Jackman cameo. Sex. What I mean is, every chick in this movie is taking off their clothes at one point. I mean, hell, like the first few scenes, you see this one chick who's working for the CIA takes her clothes off. You see January Jones, who's half naked throughout most of the movie. Take her clothes off. You see another mutant. Take her clothes off. You see Mystique, who's already not wearing clothes. You see January Jones take her clothes off again. But, sorry, Emma Frost. January Jones plays Emma Frost. But, anyways, X-Men First Class is really good. I've not been impressed this much with a superhero movie for a long time. This is, of course, a prequel to the first 3 X-Men movies, unlike that other X-Men movie, X-Men Origins. But this one starts off with the beginning from the first X-Men movie, where you see Eric, who would become Magneto, gets separated from his parents, and through a bunch of his anger, almost breaks an entire gate made of metal. Then he meets one guy, and then the next day he's taken by this guy named Shaw, played by Kevin Bacon, and Kevin Bacon, he plays a mean villain. That guy's like 100 years old. And Kevin Bacon, Shaw learns of his powers and kind of wants to train him for evil. Shaw is also a mutant, as we learn in a later bit. His power, I'm not sure how it works. Like, he can take like 500 bullets to the chest, then repel them all back at you. Not exactly sure how you kill him, but they find a way to in the movie. Then you meet a young Xavier who meets Mystique in his house, or Raven, played by Jennifer Lawrence. Yeah, and this is in 1944. We then cut to 1962, where you see Eric is a lot older and hunting down Shaw. We also see a young Xavier who became a professor, who has Raven, who's played by Jennifer Lawrence now, who is who is by his side, and Xavier's always trying to pick up the chicks. Raven would later become Mystique, and yeah, we all know Xavier's mutant powers. He can read minds, stop people in time, and do other crazy shit. So yeah. Anyways, the basis for this film is that it centers around the Cuban Missile Crisis. And my father, he was around for the Cuban Missile Crisis. Yeah, he's that old, but he was in America at the time. He says it was one of the most frightening times of his life. Like, he didn't know what was going to happen. I mean, the Cuban Missile Crisis, a little backstory. Russia, the Soviet Union, essentially thought, okay, we can't. Let's bring some missiles to Cuba. Fidel Castro said, okay, sure. And pretty much they sent some ships there. So what the U.S. did, they got a bunch of their ships and built a line of ships, like, so the Soviet couldn't get to Cuba. And essentially, they were about this close, like, on some of my fingers, left about a little less than a centimeter away from a nuclear war. It was the closest thing that ever happened to a nuclear war, and if it did happen, I probably wouldn't be here. But, yeah. So Kevin Bacon's character, Shaw, pretty much wants, Soviet Union and U.S. to go to war, because, he essentially wants nothing to do with either side, but wants to take over the world with mutants. Yeah, essentially have the mutants. So, but, Kevin Bacon, he's one to mess with. He's not one to mess with. He's got 3 mutants on his side. This one guy who can create storms. This other guy who's kind of red. Probably Nightcrawler, maybe? I don't know, he's red, can teleport, has swords. And Emma Frost. Emma Frost... God damn. Emma Frost can turn her entire body into diamonds and can read minds, kind of like Xavier. But, in the comic books, whoever read it, she is like the hottest thing for miles. So, eventually, Xavier meets Eric, and the two band together. Eventually, they track down a few other mutants, and this is probably the best part of the movie. Hugh Jackman came around for his 30-second cameo. Xavier and I didn't know it was coming. You just see a guy with a cigarette, I'm like, oh my god. And Xavier and Eric walk in, and it's like, are you a mutant? It's like, oh, can you come with us? Get the fuck away from me, man. And they're just like, okay. But they get, they track down some interesting mutants. They track down this, this one girl, who, there's an entire montage of scenes how they get them. This one, she's a stripper, and, she has wings. This kid, he has, sonar, ultrasound, like, he can just sort of shout and high-pitched screaming, I guess. Another guy, he can fire, like, lasers from his chest. Another guy who, is built for, can adapt to survival. Like, you know, if someone's about to shoot him, like, his chest will turn to a rock or something. Metal. And, yeah. And, another mutant that they meet, they call Bigfoot, I guess. He's got hands on his feet, who would later become Beast in the movie. So, essentially, Eric's out there to get revenge. But, there's a lot of good chemistry between him and, Charles. They're both learning more about one another. And, this one really good scene. There's a lot of good character depth. And, one scene where, Charles tells Eric, here, I want you to move that satellite. There's a big satellite sitting like a few hundred feet from them. And he wants to say, here, turn it 90 degrees towards us. And Eric tries, like, I can't do it. And Charles has a look into his mind and sees a memory of him with his mother. Shaw kills Magneto's mother, Eric's mother, in an early scene, like back in the 40s, back when he was a kid, and he sees a memory of him and his mother lighting a menorah. And you see a tear flow from both of their eyes. And Eric sits there saying, thank you. I thought that memory was lost. It's not lost. And then he tries again and moves the satellite. Like, perfectly. Yeah. Meanwhile, Hank, who later become the Beast, is kind of looking for a cure. The cure is, he's got hands on his feet. He's trying to look for a cure for Raven. But he tries his cure and it turns him into the Beast. Blue thing. And he's kind of pissed by this. He also makes the jet. And then comes the climax. Essentially, it's the ship full of the Soviet missiles heading to Cuba. Now, I'm just curious, where is it going? Because they say if they pass this embargo line, then, the Soviet Union has pretty much declared war, but where is the ship going? You don't see you see Cuba, but you don't see any like docks or boats, just a patch of land. What are they supposed to do? Just set up their missiles there? I don't know. But yeah. And then Shaw pretty much wants to kill everyone, and Magneto and Xavier defeat him. Well, rather, Xavier freezes him while Eric puts a coin through his brain. um, and Eric also gets the helmet. And then, yeah. One thing I will say, the acting in this is bloody incredible. I mean, I don't know how you measure in a superhero movie. That's the problem I think most people have, like most critics have, with this, that how do you measure the performance in a superhero movie? They're acting a character that, already exists, like they're not creating a new character. But Eric, Magneto, you kind of feel sympathetic for him. I mean, Shaw killed his parent, killed his mother in front of him, turned him into a weapon of destruction, all to poison his mind, I guess. My voice is running dry, but yeah, and we learn how Xavier gets in the wheelchair. The one human chick at the beginning, she tries to shoot Eric after he does some crazy shit with some missiles, tries to fire them back at the human ships. Eric deflects the bullet but hits Xavier right in the spine, and the spinal injury was just a little pointer. You take an injury to the spine, good luck, because he was hitting just the right place. That he loses the feeling in his legs, like he can't move his legs now, which bothered me because in X-Men Origins you could see he was walking on 2 feet. But yeah, so that's the movie in a nutshell. And then Xavier turns his old mansion into pretty much the school for mutants, and Kevin Bacon's character's dead. Magneto becomes Magneto. Eric becomes Magneto. And then it ends with President Kennedy's speech saying the missile crisis is over. I really like this. I mean, there was a lot of big hype for this. I'd say the best thing comes from the bromance, never hear me say that again, between Xavier and Eric. He's just, you see, it's just like these two friends for like, pretty much trying to fight against this guy who just, I don't know, you kind of feel sympathetic for Magneto in a way. And, we all know what happens to him in the end. He loses powers. But I like it because it doesn't it's not one of those things where you kind of have to read the comic book. But there are little things here and there, like Hugh Jackman. And there's one scene where after Xavier's in the wheelchair, he says, "Maybe I'll become bald." We learned how Cerebro was. And they had a lot of good technology back in the 60s. I'm surprised. But that's the review. I like this more than Thor. I think I'm going to like this more than the Green Lantern, though. But maybe not the first Avenger. I am going to pass this with a 8.5 out of 10. I want to give it a 9, but there were a couple problems here and there. So yeah, I would recommend to see it. Oh, don't take your girlfriend to see it, because like I said, every girl in this movie takes off their clothes at one point. So, it's a little warning, and I'm gonna go to sleep. Ah well, 8.5 out of 10. See ya in Super 8.